Dad left me our house when he passed away, but my mom booted me out to live with her new family. 15 years later, I tried to take my house back, but they're threatening me, so I had to bring the cops. I'm 24 years old, by the way. Let me just say, my mom kicked me out because she wanted to impress her new husband. Okay, maybe kicked out sounds a bit rough. Let's say she moved me out of my own house and stuck me with my grandparents on my dad's side. I have all the great memories from when my dad was alive. Sadly, we lost him when I was just 7. As a kid, it totally wrecked me. I was super close to my dad, and seeing him in that coffin just shattered my heart. I still remember that moment so vividly, and it still gets to me. While I was still dealing with the loss, my mom showed up with another guy and insisted I call him Dad. I was like, no way. I don't know if I was right or wrong, but it just didn't feel right to call him Dad so soon after my own dad's death. After that first meeting, I often found him in my mom's bedroom, and it was tough to see how fast my mom had moved on. She didn't even wait a year before bringing my dad's replacement into the house. I was not ready to accept him as my dad's replacement. I had just turned 8 when they planned their big wedding. They went all out for second-timers. Anyway, none of my business. She left me with my grandparents while she went on her honeymoon. A month went by, but she didn't show up. I kept asking my grandparents when Mom would come to pick me up, but they had no clue. Then suddenly she showed up one day. I was so excited to see her after so long. I ran to hug her, but she had brought all my stuff to dump me at my grandparents'. I was absolutely heartbroken. I lived with my grandparents until high school. I was happy with them. My mom would show up sometimes, just to tell me how much she loved me and cared for me. Sometimes I used to ask her if she loved me so much, why did she dump me at my grandparents'? She never had an answer. She'd just say something like, oh, your grandparents are getting old, they need some help with their groceries and taking out the trash. It was much later that she finally told me the real reason. She had given my room to her stepchildren. Bill, my mom's husband, had 2 kids who moved in with us after their wedding. My mom chose her new family over me. It was only natural for me to start feeling resentful towards her, so eventually I just stopped bothering her. After high school, I moved out from my grandparents' place, but I still visit them a lot. They were kinda my saviors. They raised me. If it weren't for them, my childhood would have been a mess. Now I'm 24. After working in marketing for a year, I decided to start my own business. I need some cash for that, so I thought about leasing out my house. Oh, if I didn't mention it before, there's a bit of a twist coming for my mom and her loving family. The house they're living in, it's actually mine. Yeah, that's right. My dad made a will on his deathbed and made sure I got every penny he had, including the house. I was just a kid when his lawyer read the will after his funeral, but by the look on my mom's face, I could tell she wasn't happy about it at all. Later, I found out she tried multiple times to challenge the will but lost every time. My dad made sure the will was ironclad. The house was mine, but I could only sell or lease it after I turned 21. Until then, no one could touch the property. My grandparents think that Dad probably saw this coming with Mom's plans, and that's why he made such a strict will. Otherwise, she might have tricked me as a kid into giving her the house. Last month, I called my mom to let her know about my plan to lease out the house, but she didn't pick up my calls. This week when I went to see my grandparents, I told them I was thinking about making some extra cash from the house. They looked at me funny. I asked them what was up. They said I might run into a lot of trouble getting Mom to move out because her stepdaughter is pregnant with a teenage boy who's ditched his responsibilities. Plus, Bill lost his full-time job and is now working at a store in the evenings, so they're really struggling financially. Now I'm totally stuck on what to do. I mean, I need that house right now. I quit my job and I need the money to start my business. Things got pretty intense after that. Picking up where I left off, my grandparents told me that Mom and her family are going through a tough time, so they probably won't be moving out of my house. I figured I'd let Mom know my plan and give them a few months to get their act together. Initially, I was thinking of giving them a month's notice, but knowing their situation, I decided on 3-4 months. Since Mom wasn't picking up her phone, I went over to her place. The house wasn't the same as before, and neither was my mom. There was this chilly atmosphere. Maybe she guessed why I was there. When she saw me at the door, she gave me a fake smile and a half-hearted hug. Keep in mind, we hadn't seen each other in nearly a decade. Yeah, she stopped coming around after I hit my teenage years. Yeah, I got pretty bitter about it. Who wouldn't? Even though it had been so long, she didn't even ask how I'd been doing. She didn't care to know anything about me. It was like, oh, you're here, must be something big that brought you to my doorstep. The people-pleaser in me said, oh no, nothing big, just wanted to see how you're doing. It's been a while. She smiled and said, sure it is. Then there was this awkward silence for another 5 minutes until I got up to leave. It was definitely uncomfortable. I didn't feel welcome at all. Besides Mom, my pregnant stepsister was also home, and she gave me a look like I was there to stir up trouble. For the moment, I dropped the idea of taking back the house. I looked into other ways to get the money for my business, but Mom really took the cake with her narcissism. Last week was my dad's 15th death anniversary. My grandparents had a small prayer ceremony at the church. Since I was in town, I decided to do it right by feeding the poor and handing out gifts to underprivileged kids. I invited my friends and relatives to the prayer. I even emailed the invite to Mom, but she didn't respond. When I checked the email history, I saw she hadn't opened it. This was the first time I'd ever emailed her. I figured it might have gone to spam or something, so I showed up at her house again. This time, Mom wasn't home. My stepsister, Brenda, answered the door. No hello, no greetings, just a straight-up question thrown at me. You're back again? What's the matter? I told her I was there to see Mom. She said, with the way she spoke to you last time, do you think she wants to see you again? She was so blunt about it that I didn't know what to say, and I blurted out that I was there to invite Mom to my dad's prayer ceremony. She laughed in my face and said, that was like centuries ago, you're still holding on to that. Get over it. I said, excuse me, he was my dad, and it's none of your business to comment. She rolled her eyes and stormed off to her room. I sat there feeling like an idiot for a few more minutes before leaving a note for Mom on the table. I asked her to call me back. She called me the next day, and I told her about the prayer ceremony. She stayed quiet for a minute and then said she wouldn't be able to make it because she had to take Brenda for a checkup. That was a bummer. I mean, she could have at least said she'd try, but just turning it down flat was really disappointing. I replied sarcastically, yeah, of course they are your priority. We are no one to you, so be it. Good luck raising that narcissistic woman and her bastard child. She flipped out when I used that word. I said, why would I be nice to her when she was so mean to me? She made fun of my emotions. To defend her, Mom said it was natural for her to get furious. You can't talk about death in front of a pregnant woman. You're such an insensitive dud like your father. The moment she said that, I lost my mind. I yelled at her that she should not talk trash about my father. If anyone who's insensitive here, it has to be her, the way she was talking about my dead father. She said, your father died 15 years ago, goddamn get over it. I said, sure, the way you did, within weeks or maybe days, who knows. You know what, you don't need to come. My father would not like your prayer after seeing your true colors. I hung up the phone saying this. The same day I hired a lawyer and started the process of sending a legal notice of eviction. The lawyer took about 15 days to validate my dad's will and send the notice to Mom. As expected, when the eviction notice reached them, she freaked out. Apparently, she never thought I would go to such lengths to get my revenge on her for not attending Dad's prayer ceremony. I laughed at her voicemail and blocked her. When she couldn't contact me anywhere, she showed up at my grandparents' place. I wasn't there at that time. Oh yeah, I'm living with my grandparents again until I get my life together. My mother asked my grandparents to convince me to withdraw the eviction notice. My grandparents are calm and nice people, that's why they didn't kick her out. They said they don't have any say in this, it's my property and I get to do whatever I want. Fair enough. The answer didn't sit well with her, and she blamed my grandparents for raising me as an entitled brat. Really? What was she smoking when she said that? I asked my grandma why she didn't say anything to my narcissistic mom. My grandparents were like, we don't want to mess with that woman. I said, well, I do want to mess with her, and I'm not letting them stay in my house one more day. I gave them an eviction notice according to the tenants' law in the country, even though they aren't tenants. They don't pay me any rent. On top of that, I'm the one paying the property taxes every year. So legally, I can throw them out right away. My grandparents are God-fearing people. They talked me out of it. They said, for the sake of the Lord, give them that 1 month to find another place. There's a pregnant woman there and we shouldn't drag her out onto the streets. I sighed and said she didn't need any help either. She was just as toxic. My grandparents were like, so be it, she might be a sinner, but her unborn baby isn't. Don't be cruel to that little one. They convinced me to wait, otherwise I was set on evicting them that very day. The next day I got a call from my mom. I ignored it. She did the same thing to me when I was trying to call her. She messaged me to talk, saying it was urgent. I told her to check my calendar and meet me at my grandparents' during my open slot. She didn't like that. She sent a long reply saying I was trying to throw my weight around. What did I do with her 5-paragraph email? Nothing. That's right, I didn't respond. She probably got the hint that I wasn't going to give in to her pressure. Throughout my childhood, whenever I cried or threw tantrums wanting to go home, instead of comforting me, she would scold me and tell me to behave. She would scare me into being a good kid and not throwing tantrums. That was her parenting style, and it worked. To keep her happy and avoid messing with her, I would stop crying. But after she left, I would sulk in the corner of the house for hours. Not anymore. It's her turn to sulk, but sadly, she won't even have a corner to herself. So she came to meet me, and I deliberately made her wait for an hour. She got all anxious. I told my grandparents to stay out of it. She kept bugging them about me. They said they had no clue and quickly ducked back into their room. When I finally showed up, she gave me this look like, "Where the hell have you been? I've been waiting here for an hour," but she kept quiet. She sat there with a straight face. Most people in her shoes would have tried to butter me up, but she stayed firm. She said, "Okay, let me start. I can't sit here all day. I have stuff to do." I mumbled under my breath, "Oh, sure you do. Finding a house is such a tough job." She shot me an annoyed look and said, "What's this notice about?" I replied, "It's in English. I'm sure you can read it, or do you need me to read it for you?" She was totally pissed off. She threw the notice at my face and said she wasn't going to leave the house because of some dumb notice. After she finished yelling, I said, "Then let's wait and see what happens if you don't follow the court order." She was like, "I gave birth to you. Don't you dare try to outsmart me. That house belongs to my husband and no one can kick me out of there." I said, "Sure, but a legal heir can." I was answering her calmly just to get under her skin, and it worked. She got even more pissed off. But the moment she called my dad her husband, I lost it. "Really? You have the nerve to call him your husband when you skipped his memorial service saying he was history. You don't deserve his house. You're just squatters, and I'm gonna clear that house of all leeches." She stood up and said she was done playing nice and now I'd have to deal with her lawyer. I laughed and said, "Go right ahead. We still have 20 days left. Let's see what other tricks she has up her sleeve." Update 2, I got the house after a huge fight. Like I said in my last post, I gave Mom and her family 30 days to get out of the house. She came to me and tried to gaslight the whole thing. I shut her down and she left. The next series of events was just pure narcissism on their part. Can you believe that her stepdaughter, Brenda, came charging at me and even threatened to press a harassment case against me? She was playing the pregnancy victim card, acting like she could do whatever she wanted because she was carrying a child. I told her, "Lady, being pregnant isn't a free pass to cause trouble." She tried to mess with my grandparents until we showed her the camera we had set up around the house. I warned her, "If you step foot here one more time, I'm calling the cops on you." Then my mom stepped in to defend her precious stepdaughter. She accused me of abusing and mentally torturing her pregnant Brenda. She threatened to sue me over it. I told her, "Go ahead, let the judge see the camera footage and decide." When she couldn't win with force anymore, she softened up. She started crying and asked what she did wrong in raising me that I turned out so self-centered. She blamed herself for not raising me right. She even brought up my dead father, saying it was his fault for dying too soon and not giving me a proper upbringing. I told her, "Hold up, if anyone's to blame, it's you. Not for raising me wrong because you never raised me. My grandparents raised me, and they did a damn good job. You should feel sorry for abandoning me, but you know what? I'm glad you didn't raise me. I see how messed up you've raised your stepdaughter. I even brought up her teen pregnancy. I know I shouldn't have gone there, but in the heat of the moment I did. Of course, she got mad at me. I realized I had crossed a line, so I kept quiet after that. I told her I didn't want to talk anymore. I just want my property back. I've let them live there for free for so long. Now I really need it." I tried to explain to her that I had quit my job and needed cash to kickstart my business, so I was planning to rent out the house. She totally lost it, thinking I was kicking them out just to let some strangers move in. I told her the strangers would be paying rent, and if she agreed to pay, she could stay. She flipped out again, saying I was bringing money into family issues. I shot back, saying there's no family here. You tossed me out like trash and hardly ever checked in on me. My birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you barely showed up, and when you did, you acted like you were doing me a huge favor. What kind of mom does that? A mom like you, huh? She tried every trick in the book to manipulate me, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, and her usual anger. When she saw I wasn't backing down, she left. You might think they moved out after that, but nope, they didn't. Mom's deadbeat husband was still in the picture. That jerk sent me a voicemail. "Dude, you don't know who you're messing with. I can deadlift you and make you beg for your life. One punch to your face and you'll forget all about the house. You come to my door again and I'll knock you out." The guy is huge and he loves to show it off. I don't know much about him, but my grandparents warned me not to mess with him. He's a bully for sure, but he's also dumb as a rock. He basically handed me evidence against himself by threatening me on voicemail. I didn't respond to him because I wanted to bring in a bigger dude to deal with him, the cops. On the day we were supposed to evict them, I headed to the station and filed a report for the threats. I had solid proof. My lawyer came with me to the station and asked the cops to come along for the eviction. At first, they weren't up for it. They said to call them if there was trouble, but we didn't want to deal with those squatters by ourselves. A little cash helped get them on board, and they came with us. When I got to the house with my lawyer, my mom, Bill, and Brenda started cussing us out. Her deadbeat husband even came out swinging a hockey stick, but as soon as he spotted the cops' car behind ours, he backed off. The cops showed them the eviction notice and told them to hit the road. They were so sure they could scare me off that they hadn't even packed their stuff. They begged the cops for another month. The cops looked at me and I was like, no way, not after all these threats. They tried using Brenda's pregnancy to buy a few more days, but I stood my ground and said now. I got some weird looks from the cops like I was being heartless, but I was just following the legal route so no one could argue. They tried bargaining for just one more day. I told them they had 3 hours. They shot me dirty looks. Bill even tried to bump into me with his bloodshot eyes. The cops shouted, "Start packing," and stopped glaring. We all left after that. The cops told them to drop off the keys at the station, and I'd pick them up. We had to slip the cops some extra cash to make it happen, but it was totally worth it. Who else could have won a deal with those squatters? My lawyer suggested I take out a restraining order against them on the property in case they tried to come back and mess with me or the tenants. They're definitely capable of that. We went through with it, and the cops gave them a copy of the restraining order and explained what would happen if they broke it. You could see the color drain from their faces. So finally, I got the house and I've put it up for lease. I'm hoping to score a good deal and kickstart my business ASAP. I'm done dealing with these crap people. This will probably be my last update unless they come back to stir up more trouble. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught my high school sweetheart cheating on me with her college professor after 8 years together. So I got him fired and ruined her career. Now I'm single and don't know how to move on. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I recently discovered that my girlfriend, also 25, was cheating on me with a college professor. I'm still pretty shocked and hurt by it all. She totally shattered my trust, and I'm clueless about how to get over it. She and I were high school sweethearts. I've known her my whole life. We even had playdates as kids. When we hit high school, we started dating in our sophomore year and stayed together ever since. Everyone thought we'd be together forever. We were even voted best couple every year in high school. She got into a fancy Ivy League college in our state, but my grades were nowhere near hers. While she was in college, I got a job at a realtor firm, planning to get my license once I knew the industry better. We'd visit each other on weekends since we weren't too far apart, but I had some concerns while she was in college. I never thought she was cheating on me back then, but I felt insecure about the possibility. To be honest, both of us came from nothing, and I was worried she'd realize she could do better with her life than stick with me. I thought that when she got into this fancy IB League school, some rich lacrosse player would sweep her off her feet and she'd forget all about me. She'd reassure me whenever she could tell I was feeling down, so I stopped worrying. When she graduated with her undergrad degree, the school offered her a faculty position that let her pursue her graduate degree for free. It was too good to pass up, even though it meant we'd be apart longer. Her job was to help one of the professors in her department with his research. He was a big shot in his field, and he had a bunch of students working under him, doing all the real work while he took all the credit. Because of her new job, we couldn't even hang out on weekends anymore. Every once in a while, I'd surprise her by showing up, but she was always so stressed and exhausted from work that we never had any fun. But whenever I did get to talk to her, all she'd talk about was her professor. She was totally obsessed with him, like he was some rock star. At first, I figured it was just professional respect, but then I saw a photo of them together in one of the school's newsletters, and I started to get suspicious. It was an article about the chemistry department's research. The article had different photos of the students working, and some candid shots of everyone in action. I noticed that in one of the pictures, his hand was on my girlfriend's lower back. For some people, that might be no big deal. But seeing her much older male professor do that to her really set off alarm bells for me. Right after seeing the picture, I called her and asked her about it straight up. She laughed at me and said I had nothing to worry about, that I was just being insecure like always. We hardly ever fought, but the way she said it really pissed me off, and we ended up having a huge argument. After 2 days of not talking, I caved and called her to apologize, and it seemed like everything was going to be okay after that. Our anniversary was coming up, and we had planned for her to take the whole weekend off so we could spend it together. I was already halfway to her place when she called and said she couldn't leave the lab. I pulled over on the side of the road and talked to her about it, telling her how disappointed I was that she wasn't standing up for us since this meant so much to us. She promised me that she would make it up to me the next weekend and told me just to turn around and go home. I was closer to her apartment than I was to my house, so I just kept on going. I figured that if she was stressed out and tired, I could at least order some takeout for her and hang out for a few hours before leaving. When I got to her apartment, I unlocked the door with the spare key that I had, and right away I realized that she was home. She had told me on the phone that she would be at the lab for most of the night, so that was a surprise. I could smell food, and I could hear giggling coming from her bedroom. I walked further in and saw that there had been a meal recently cooked, 2 plates were on the table, and a half-empty bottle of wine accompanied them. My heart completely sank into my stomach. Just as I had suspected, there was definitely something going on. I didn't know who it was, but she clearly had somebody here for a romantic night, and they were in bed with her. I cautiously approached her door and opened it to find her in bed with her professor on top of her. They didn't notice me right away, but when I spoke up and asked what was going on, he jumped off of her and she quickly ran up to me and tried to calm me down. It was almost comical how hard the professor was trying to hide his face from me. Clearly, he didn't want me to tell anyone about what I saw. I stormed out of her apartment, dropping my spare key on the ground before I left. I never wanted to go back there again. It was a lot for me to process for the first few days after it happened. I was practically dead to the world. I had planned on marrying my girlfriend, and before I even had a chance to propose, she threw 8 years of a relationship away. We could have had an epic love story to tell our grandkids, but she totally messed it up. After I pulled myself together, I figured I needed to move on by getting a bit of revenge. Obviously, the professor didn't want me to see who he was because he was scared of losing his job. I knew that once the headlines hit about a big-shot professor taking advantage of his college students, he'd never find another job in the industry again. I called the HR department at the university and told them what I saw. They said they'd launch an investigation. I knew it would be my word against his, and unfortunately I didn't have any evidence. A week went by and nothing happened. I figured they were sweeping it under the rug. So I called a local newspaper and they were super interested in the scandal. It didn't take long for me to finally see the news that he had been fired. I hadn't talked to my ex since the night I caught her in bed with her professor, but her parents were pissed at me for outing the relationship. Apparently, since the professor she was supposed to work for didn't work at the university anymore, she lost her job. That meant they'd either have to cough up tens of thousands of dollars for her graduate degree, or she wouldn't be enrolled anymore. She ended up having to drop out because they couldn't afford to take out any more loans for her. She's completely out of my life now, but I still don't know what I'm supposed to do moving forward. She was the first and only woman I've been with, and I'm a little scared to get back out there.